Charlene Carruthers, in your view, I mean, is this a choice between reforming policing further? We know some reforms have clearly already been instituted. Is it a choice between reforming policing and just doing away with policing, or how do you see it?
So actually, Mr. Wexler and I have fundamental disagreements. I actually do not believe that we agree about the role of the police. I do not believe that we should have a partnership between community and the police in order to deal with conflict, harm, and violence in our communities. What that power, those decisions, and that role, including the money, needs to actually be completely shifted and not simply into social service agencies, because we also know and understand that many social service agencies act in proxy to the police department across the country. And what we're seeing in Minneapolis is not simply a case of a few bad apples. In reality, we know that the entire tree is rotten. It's been rotten since policing was even developed in this country. We know its origins in serving as slave catchers for enslaved Africans. We know how police played a major role in Jim Crow. We know how police continue to play a role in the mass incarceration of Black and Brown people. What we're talking about here is a big vision. We're talking about radically shifting and transforming the world that we live in. We know that defunding the police is one step, but one essential step, because power, how it works in this world, is through organized resources, meaning money, and organized people. And so we're going towards the source of what we know the government understands, corporations understand, and police unions understand, is that we're coming to say we want power shifted into our communities.
And in essence, Chuck Wexler, what I hear Ms. Carruthers saying is that police as an institution, doesn't work anymore.
Well, maybe if I was in her shoes, I might feel the same way. I don't take away anything she said. She's lived this, I haven't. But here's what I know. At the end of the day, there's 18,000 police departments in this country. 90% of them are 25 officers or less. We have no national standards, no guidelines on use of force. We put out guidelines on use of force 6 years ago. And we believe in the sanctity of human life. We believe in the duty to intervene, rendering first aid. We need humane police. We do not have a plan B. If you said in Minneapolis today, we're going to disband the police, what does that mean? Someone needs to respond to someone when they're in crisis. If you need a police officer and you're in crisis, there is absolutely nothing better than a good cop and absolutely nothing worse than a bad cop. We need police in society, but we need humane police. We need good police. We need to be working with groups like yours in Chicago. We cannot do this alone. We cannot change police. We need the community with us. This was a defining moment in Minneapolis, but let's use this moment to change an institution. Society needs police. We need humane police. We're better than what happened in Minneapolis.
Ms. Carruthers, what about his point that as a country, as a society, we need police in crisis situations?
So I live on the south side of Chicago, and every single day my community is surveilled by the Chicago Police Department. We put literally well over $1 billion into the Chicago Police Department every single day. At the same time, we see story after story of violence that is happening in our communities. The police are not keeping us safe. Any semblance of safety that we have comes from within our community. We know things like good jobs, good education, good health care, mental health crisis actually reduces violence that happens in our communities. And to Mr. Wexler's point, about who do we want to respond in crisis, imagine that you are being assaulted by your partner, or you are in the middle of a mental health crisis. And instead of a person showing up with a gun and a taser and an entire police department behind them, it's a social service worker. It's a mental health crisis worker. It is a sexual assault crisis responder. We in Chicago, our Chicago public schools have more cops than they have counselors. What I'm saying here is something that some neighborhoods and communities already know. We know wealthy communities and white communities know what it's like to actually have resources instead of having more cops. And that's what we're talking about here. It's not a vision that's unattainable. It's a vision that actually invites more community into the process.
Chuck Wexler, final word. Is that something that's workable?
Oh, I think that is workable. I think teaming up mental health workers with the police could be absolutely workable. We don't feel like we have a monopoly on mental health issues, on drug issues, on people in crisis. But here's the reality. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Are those other social service agencies willing to step up? If they are, come join us. We need all the help we can get.